Oh, you want to turn on the recording? Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages. Welcome to the Tucson Macintosh User Group meeting for October 2021. It is our Halloween edition, and we have some spooky stuff for you this year. We have raffle tickets, including super raffle tickets. You could win a $100 Apple gift card. Kurt will be taking attendance tonight, and he will fill in the raffle tickets for each of the members. To be eligible, the screen name displayed must match with the record of a current TMUG membership. If we can't identify you, and your name will not be placed in the raffle. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, November 16th, relatively early in the month, not conflicting with Thanksgiving, at this virtual location. Next month, we will have again our Ask Me Anything session hosted by Kevin. If we have a November event, there will be one. There will be news from that November events if it does happen. We'll also have our annual Geek Gift Guide. I will be presenting it, but with much help from everybody. Thank you, Melissa. We've added one that you suggested sort of today.
From Ted Lasso?
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought you would like that.
Yeah, the little leather man squirt.
I figured.
We'll
I should have
keep
taken bets on which one you would pick.
we'll keep doing virtual meetings as we are this month. We are thinking about the return to in-person meetings at least occasionally, but due to the ongoing COVID crisis, there are no plans at this time. However, we are thinking about planning and possibly forming an exploratory committee to investigate the feasibility of doing an in-person December meeting at a Toast Tucson restaurant. By show of hands.
Are you sure you're the president of TMUG and not the president of the US?
Thank you. I don't
4
want
more
that
years.
job. I don't need that job. I feel that anybody who wants to be president should be
Good job.
disqualified. By show of hands, would you be interested in attending a meeting in December, maybe on a different date, maybe on a weekend, maybe during the day, and we would have some ability to gather together. Anybody interested? We got 1, 2.
Would it be indoors or
3.
outdoors?
It depends a lot on the weather.
Yeah.
If we can do it outdoors, so there is some interest.
I'd be interested
Thank you
in
for
outdoors.
thank you all of you for volunteering to be on the committee.
Darn it.
Melissa, I didn't see your hand go up. Of course, you haven't got your camera on.
Sneaky.
No, but I can, let's see, where is it? I can give you a thumbs up.
Okay, okay.
Bob, I would caveat my vote by saying it would depend on the nature of the venue. Like outdoors would be way preferred, or
Of
something,
course it
you
would,
know,
unless the
Chris.
temperature was in the 30s.
right?
Or like in your background.
I have already placed it in the, let me see, I switch over to everyone and type the, oh no, I have to stop now. I've dropped my notes.
Please adjust your set. The
That's
trouble
possibly
is
going
not
on
at
now.
the station.
I've already placed the
Bob's sitting outdoors anyways.
link to the feedback form in the chat. I'm going to try to paste it in there again. There it is.
There's a message for you.
Okay, that's the link to the feedback form. We would like everyone to fill that out. It really does help us when we plan for the next meeting. We're doing a virtual raffle for our Zoom meetings. Last month's winner was Denny Smith. Congratulations, Denny. I think you're here. There he is. I see him. I see him in the grid over there. And like the super raffle, the names of tonight's attendees will be collated, numbered into a numbered list and used to pick a winner. Like the super raffle, you need to have an eligible screen name, one that matches with your membership record, or you ain't gonna get on the list. We also have the TMUG Treasure Hunt raffle, which is now in its 4th month. Susan Clement was the winner of last month's raffle. Congratulations, Susan. I think you're here as well. Part 1 of this quiz is in the newsletter, and you should all have received the newsletter. I hope you do. If you don't, let Bob Doms know, and he will sign you up and let you be subscribed. Part 2 of 2 is in the TMUG Talk mail list, which I have already sent out. And if you go to part 1 and you look at part 2, you'll figure out the answer. When you figure out the answer, send me your guess, which is almost certainly to be right. And you will be put on the list to be drawn for the treasure hunt raffle. It's pretty easy and it's pretty fun. When using our group's IO mail list, please use your TMUG email address of record. If you don't know what that is, send me an email and I will give you the address of record. Are there any other announcements? I think there's something else that I forgot. Well, it looks like everybody else forgot it too. So, are there any for sales or wanted to buys? Moving forward, we're going to, before we do the tech update with me standing in for Ridge, I have a little movie I'd like to show. As you may or may not know, October is the 10-year anniversary of the passing of Steve Jobs. Can everybody see Steve at the Apple One computer here?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna press play. It's only a couple of minutes long.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much. But life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it, you can influence it, you can build your own things that other people can use.
Good evening. I'm Steve Jobs from Apple Computer. We're very glad to be here tonight.
I think you always had to be a little different to buy an Apple computer. And I think you still have to think differently to buy an Apple computer. And I think the people that do buy them, they are the people that are not just out to get a job done, they're out to change the world.
What a computer is to me is it's the most remarkable tool that we've ever come up with. And it's the equivalent of a bicycle for our minds.
This is iMac. The whole thing is translucent. You can see into it. It's so cool. Pleased to announce today that I'm going to drop the interim title.
We used to stand at the intersection of technology and humanity, and to make something for people that want to bring this into their lives and use it for things that make them more creative, not just make them more productive.
This amazing little device holds 1,000 songs, and it goes right in my pocket. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? And we are calling it iPhone. We have a chance, if we stay focused and choose wisely, to really continue to impact people's lives in some small way for the better. There's an old Wayne Gretzky quote that I love. I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been. And we've always tried to do that at Apple, since the very, very beginning. And we always will. So thank you very, very much for being part of this.
Steve certainly was a creative genius and a wonderful marketer and an imperfect man like probably the rest of us, certainly me. But he did influence all of our lives, and I think that he might have changed the world a little bit.
Yes,
So
well.
next, I'd like to go into the Apple News and Security Update. And so I'm going to go back to screen sharing and share Keynote. And you're seeing it? Roger, are you seeing the Keynote?
Yep, but
Okay.
it's not playing.
No, I haven't hit the button yet.
Oh,
Is that where we're having the Christmas meeting, Bob?
Pardon?
Is that where we're having our meeting in December?
Well, actually, thank you for stepping in at exactly the right time, Chris. Tim did call and said that, yes, it's okay if we use this venue for our meeting. And so that's why they put up the sign, the TMUG sign on the outside of the Steve Jobs Theater.
Well, I'm definitely going to that because you know the air is going to be scrubbed and they're going to provide their Apple masks.
You bet. You bet.
And all of the leather chairs, leather seats in the venue are like, what were they? Were like $8,000 or $10,000 per chair. Well, okay. So now we have some software updates to talk about. Here are some software updates. If you look at these, you probably will see, if you see something that you have, you probably already know that it's updated. If you see something that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. You probably don't own it. The iWork suite has been completely updated, all three items. Zoom is now up to 5.8.1. 1Password is at 7.9.
Hey,
And
Bob.
Roger was experiencing some problems with 1Password. Is that right, Roger? Have you reconciled that?
Yeah, they responded from the company and it's working now. You're not in play.
Slides aren't advancing.
Sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. Do you see it now?
Well, we see it, but it's still not playing.
It only changes when I press the mouse button.
I know, but you're not in play mode. We're seeing your thumbnails on the left-hand side of the screen.
I'm in play mode, and let's go back and try it again.
What happens if you press play? So it's playing for you, but it's not playing for us because I watched you click it, but it didn't change anything.
Do you
You have
see
two
operating
displays?
system updates now?
No, software updates.
No, it's on 4.
That was,
That's on slide 4.
4. Oops.
Bob, there was something that Ridge did. It was in one of the sub menus to get it to play a couple of months ago. I don't remember. I'm not a
It's
big
play
fan.
in a window.
Right.
There
Mhm.
goes.
Now
That
we're
looks
cooking.
better.
Now you're seeing it? Okay.
Right.
Here's the operating system updates. Here's the software updates.
Yes.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay. And.
Okay, now what did you do?
operating
Write that
system
down. Take a screenshot.
updates.
Take a screenshot right now. You don't
Play
have
in
to
a
do this.
window.
This may change tomorrow. A lot of updates are happening right now. And the new Mac operating system is due to be out on Monday, I think.
Right.
Okay, security concerns. This is actually a good thing. Yubico launches fingerprint security key, Yubico Bio. This is a little device that plugs into a USB port, and it is used for the second factor of two-factor authentication. And it is $80 or $85 for a USB-C device. It's something that is a lot more secure than, oh, well, we'll just text you this code, and then you can type that in and we'll let you in. So this is a device that is pretty well thought of in the security area, and you might want to consider it. Links to all these things are in the show notes that are already in the TMUG Talk mail list. So you probably already have them in your inbox. Now, here's something that came up that the government thought up. And like a lot of the stuff the government thinks up, it kind of sort of sounds okay when you first read about it. But then when you think about it, it might not be quite so good. There's a bill that the victims of ransomware, like ABC Company or XYZ Company, has a ransomware attack, and they pay the ransom and get their data back. It's important that within 48 hours, they inform the government of the attack, the payment, how much they paid, and the type of currency they used, and so forth. Now, on the surface, it sounds good, but it's kind of like you're turning the victim into the criminal. So you may want to, the government may want to rethink that, but they don't generally do that.
I'll have a stern talking to with them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Before you go, two things. Number one, on the ransomware, it ends up the FBI actually has the key from that Russian group that's been doing all the ransomware. They're not giving it out to people because they want to be able to follow the money. And that was on a blog that I get every month from a guy named Bruce Schneier, who's really big into security. Also on the YubiKey, if anybody decides to get one of those, make sure you get two. And the reason for that is if you're using that to access your Mac or something, or passwords, and one key breaks, you will lose access to everything. You cannot register a second key afterwards.
So they probably should get three so you can give you the third one.
Or put a third one in a safety deposit box.
I was going
or
to say
something.
safety deposit box. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the next piece talking about Apple's proposed CSAM scanning. Is there anybody here who does not know what CSAM scanning is? Okay, this is Luis, this is their thought that they're going to look through your iPhotos as they go up to the cloud, and if they match something that's known to be child help me out here. CSAM, Child Security. Okay.
Child
I'll look it
sexual,
up. Hang on a
sexual
sec.
abuse material.
What was that, Tony?
Child sexual abuse material.
Okay. So if they determine sexual abuse material, they'll inform, they'll take it down and inform the authorities. Again, this is something that really sounds good on the surface. And yet, when you think about all the implications, it may not be so good. And a big 46-page study by researchers and the think that it might not be a good thing. And Apple has, unlike the government, Apple has going, oh, well, maybe it's not such a good idea. We're going to put the brakes on this until we can be more sure of what's going on. Now, here's one from Andrew Orr of Mac Observer's Daily Observations, a company that routes billions of text messages for many different cell phone providers had a data breach a long time ago. And they're just quietly kind of sort of saying that they were hacked now. So this is one of those things that could be a very bad thing, and the company's not fessing up to it. So if you may want to change your passwords for your cell phone provider. And there's more information about this in the show notes if you're interested in reading about it. And here's one that I got this morning, and I almost fell for it. This was the body of a message that came through to me, and this email address is a real email address, or actually it's a forward for one of my clients. And she's never sent me images via email before, but now I'm presented with this download link, and I did click on it. And I went there, and it was like 17 megabytes, and there seemed to be 3 items and not 2. And one of them was a executable file for a PC. I thought, nah, I don't think I'm going to download any of this stuff. And I sent Alexandra here an email. Did you send this to me? And her answer was no. So if you see something like this, don't download it. I don't know if WeTransfer.com is a legitimate or illegitimate entity, but this email certainly came from an illegitimate evildoer.
They are legitimate, Bob.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we use them all the time in the Camera Club.
Okay. Now, this is also a good thing. This is the ISO International Standards Organization, I think, approves a standard for mobile driver's licenses. And supposedly, Arizona is going to be one of the first 2 states to implement this. And you can have your driver's license in your Apple Wallet on your iPhone. So looking back at the things that we talked about tonight, there were a couple of really good things and a couple of not so good things. So it's not always all bad news. For further information, it's in the show notes with lots of links. So thank you for your attention. And now I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Tony for the October Apple announcements and the details. Take it away, Tony.
You're muted.
Give me a second here because I'm on my iPad and on travel. See if this works. Okay. So Apple did their event. It was called the Unleashed event. Let's see if I can get it to go to the next one. And it looks like the computer, you know, everything is going into warp speed. Just taking it a second here. Apparently does not like all the large graphics. So give me a second here and I'm gonna transfer it to a PDF.
Oh no, slow internet?
Yeah, I'm at a hotel and that is very different than my home internet, which is essentially fiber.
Chris, take a look at chat.
One thing you could try to do, Tony, if you want to send it to one of us, we could play it while you talk through it if it's a problem.
I just need to get it into.
Maybe get it into PDF and then post the PDF file to the chat. And then Bob could open it up or somebody could open it up and you could just say like next slide. There's just one idea. Because I feel your pain. I feel your pain. It hurts.
Putting it in the PD in the chat is going to be a trick.
Is it large?
Well, it's
really
it's
large?
doing that on the iPad.
Mm-hmm. Can you upload it from, like if you go into the chat, I think you can attach a file.
Can you
There we go.
email it to Roger or myself, Tony?
Yeah, maybe email it.
Is that working now?
Oh yeah. I see it.
Okay. Sorry, just needed to convert it to a PDF. So it's
That works.
the Apple event called Unleashed. Okay, so the first thing Apple talked about was music. And what they have created is a new plan for Apple Music called the Voice Plan. And this is in addition to the individual plan and the family plan for Apple Music. And so what you can do with this is they've created a bunch of new moods and play and activity playlists, like I'm having a dinner party, play music for a dinner party, or I'm feeling sad, play something that's boppy and happy. It's $4.99 per month. You do not get lossless audio, which most people won't notice that, but you also can't download the music to a device. It'll only stream the music. And so what you have to do is search for what you want using Siri, and then it will play it based on what you have Siri do. And it only works on Apple devices. So this is essentially a new, cheaper plan. So $4.99 per month. But if you just have, you know, a HomePod or something like that, you can play music over the HomePod, $4.99 per month, any of the music that's available in Apple Music. When the other Apple Music plans, the individual plan and the family plan, and I think the student plan as well, are going to get these new curated mood and activity playlists, and you'll be able to search for those and play them using the Apple Music app or using voice commands by Siri. Just like these other, the voice plan can get the moods and activity playlists. So it's a new set of playlists that are curated. They'll keep them updated. I think it's an interesting idea, and I'm not sure how many people this will be useful for.
You know if it's included in the bundled one program, the iCloud One bundle?
So the iCloud One bundle, depending on which variant you have, has either the individual plan or the family plan.
Right, I've seen
And
the
so
family plan.
Yep. So if you have the family one, you would get the moods and playlists the
Okay.
same way.
That's good to know.
So it's essentially they've added a lower end plan that doesn't let you type in your search, only lets you do a voice search with Siri.
Kind of like a Spotify Lite or something.
Yeah, and Amazon has an Echo plan that's $4 per month that plays Amazon music in a very
competes
similar
with that.
way.
Oh, do
Yeah.
you know if it does podcasts too, or is it just music?
They did not specifically say anything about podcasts, but I would think that if that is voice searchable, then it would be findable. And I have been able to find podcasts using voice search.
Okay, good to know. We'll have to kick the tires on it later.
It will have to be tried out by someone to see if that really works. The next thing they announced is...
I tell you one thing. They said in the announcement, it's only going to be playlists that you could download using this. So you can't select any specific artist or songs or podcasts in that matter.
Well, so the way I understood it was you couldn't actually download stuff using this voice plan. It's
I think
only
it's
streaming.
pre-curated. Is it pre-curated based on genre, mood, that sort of thing?
Right. That's what they said. It's like, say, if you want to play, you're having a dinner party and you want play some dinner party like jazz, you can't say play Diana Krall, but you could say jazz for a dinner party, and it'll figure out what it considers good for that mode.
Right. And I guess if you don't like the song that they picked, you can move on to the next one. But, you know, trying to figure out how to thumbs down or thumbs up with your voice is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So they did say that you could search by song, album, and artist to play a specific song.
Oh, that works.
But the intent is you would use it more like what Kevin was saying. Hey, I'd like some light jazz for a dinner party. So the next thing they talked about was the HomePod Mini. And really the only change here is they have 3 new colors. They have a kind of a blue, an orange, and a yellow. And other pictures I have seen have made that blue and yellow look very different. So I would say you want to see those colors in person or better pictures than these quick screenshots before you make a decision if that's the color you want. So it's still, it's the same price as the black and white ones that are there in the background, $99. And those will be available in November. So this just gives you a little bit more options with matching your home decor with a color. Okay, new AirPods. So they still have for sale the 2nd gen AirPods, and now they've added these new AirPods 3rd gen. And what they've done is they've kind of gone halfway to an AirPods Pro. It still has the hard plastic form factor of the AirPods, but it has spatial audio like the AirPods Pro. It has the touch sensor on the side for force touch to control stuff, which some people really like and some people really hate. That's another feature that the AirPods Pro have. They've added the adaptive EQ, which is the same as the Pro. They're sweat and water resistant. They've updated the audio drivers, so they're higher quality bass drivers. Now the lifespan, I'm not sure what the actual lifespan is on the AirPods 2nd gen, but these are 6 hours on a charge. You can use 5-minute charge to get an hour of listening. So if you just need a few minutes to get back a full hour. And so the charging case, if you start the AirPods fully charged, That's 6 hours. And then you have 4 more full charges in the case to get you up to 30 hours of listening without recharging. The new case allows for MagSafe or wireless charging. So you can use the same puck that charges the iPhone 12 and 13 to charge these new AirPods in their case. And they put them smack in the middle. They're $179. So I think it was like $129 for the AirPods 2nd gen. The AirPods 3rd gen are $179, and then the AirPods Pro are $249, I think. And then, of course, I don't know if anyone has the AirPods Max, which are like, $500, $550 or something. So they kind of now have a broad range, and this is kind of filling in the gap between the 2nd generation AirPods and the AirPods Pro. Okay, now on to the exciting announcements, at least for me. So the first thing they announced was the M1 Pro chip. And so this is now the new system on a chip, the update to the M1. And I'll do a comparison on the next chart, but so the original M1 has approximately 100 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. So what they did is they made the road twice as wide to the memory, so that when they go get stuff out of memory, they get twice as much with one transaction. And so that doubled the memory bandwidth. The M1 Pro supports up to 32 gigabytes of of the unified memory. It now has 10 cores, but it's a slightly different variation. It's 8 performance cores and 2 efficiency. The regular M1 has 4 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. And they've now updated to a 16-core graphics unit, and the M1 had an 8-core or a 7-core. And similarly, in this case, they have a 16-core, and there's a little bit lower end one that has 14 cores. Very common in the industry to go, well, only 14 of the 16 cores work, therefore this one will be sold as a 14-core version. They also have hardware to support the pro resolution encoding and decoding. So this can run multiple streams at the same time to encode and decode. And the other feature they added is, because of all the hardware they have for supporting the video, it'll now support 2 external displays with the M1 Pro chip. When I move over to the M1 Max, you notice they made the road twice as wide as the M1 Pro. So now it's 400 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. It supports up to 64 gigabytes of memory. It has the same 10 cores, 8 performance plus 2 efficiency, but now the graphics processing is doubled again. So that's a 32-core graphics processing unit, or they have a variation that has 24 cores. It's a huge die, and they included 2 copies of all of the video encode decode hardware, and it now supports 4 external displays. So everyone who complained about the M1 only supporting 1 external display, the M1 Pro supports 2, and the M1 Max supports 4. So what did they announce with those chips? So they announced both a MacBook Pro 14 and 16-inch. These have 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports. They have re-added the SD card slot, and it's a very high-speed SD card slot. It's the HDMI, and it supports 4K displays at 60 hertz over the HDMI. The Thunderbolt 4 still is what you would use for the 6K displays or other 5K, 4K, like the LG 5K or the Apple XDR display would be over Thunderbolt. It has the audio headphone jack and a new version of MagSafe, which I think they should have named something different, because now we have MagSafe on the phone and MagSafe on the computers, and they're very different connectors and they're very different things. So with MagSafe, they also added now a liquid retina display. So this is very similar to that 6K display that Apple has, but they fit it into the top of a laptop. That display supports the ProMotion. We talked about that a little bit last month. So it's 120 hertz maximum speed, but there's multiple lower speed options for the display. And so if you're watching video, the display and the video is only 24 or 30 hertz, depending on, if it's TV, it's 30 hertz. If it's cinematic, it's usually 24 hertz. The display will slow down its refresh rate, and that saves power so that you have a lower power usage. The liquid retina XDR has the mini LEDs, so it's the very, very bright and very dark, so it's very high dynamic range on the display. They upgraded the camera. It's now a full HD camera, and the keyboard they eliminated the touch bar, and it looks very similar. It's got a full height function row, and it has the Touch ID in the corner. I have a picture, I think it's on the next page. And they put in a 6-speaker sound system, and these all apply to both of these laptops. So here on the left-hand side, you can see what that keyboard looks like. They have a large trackpad, the keyboard, and then the keyboard is in, you can see the background of it is actually black anodized aluminum. And so that's not all plastic there, only the keys have the plastic. And so they said, and then the Touch ID is in the upper right corner. In the upper right corner here, you can see there is a display notch. That's where the camera is, but around the display notch, and that's essentially the height of the menu bar approximately. And, but other than that, it's 3.5 millimeters around the edge. So it's a very, very small bezel around the edge of the display. And then there in the lower right corner, you can see the MagSafe connector, and it's called MagSafe 3. And that is, I believe, a thinner, a little bit wider, a little bit thinner connector. There's 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports and the headphone jack all on the left side of the device. And the right side of the device has an HDMI slot, Thunderbolt 4, and an SD card slot. Okay, so the power and weight. So the 14-inch, they say supports 17 hours of video or 11 hours of wireless web browsing. And you'll notice that this is actually lower than the 13-inch MacBook or the MacBook Air, because these processors are a little bit more power hungry. The larger display is a little bit more hungry. And the 14-inch comes with a 67 or a 96 watt charger. So if you get it with the Pro chip, I think it comes with the 67 watt charger. And if you get one with the Pro Max chip, it will come with a 96 watt charger. That is a 3.5 pounds. It's a little bit bigger than the 13 inches, but not that much. So 8.7 by 12.3 by 0.61. It's a pretty good form factor. The 16-inch is almost the exact same size as the previous 16-inch. And because it's a little bit larger, it has a larger battery. It supports 21 hours of video playback, or 14 hours of wireless web browsing. And all of the 16-inch ones come with a 140 watt charger. And reading some other things, I found that the 140 watt charger is actually a USB-C power delivery 3.1 variant charger. And so it will supply power delivery to pretty much any device that supports power delivery at the right level. So like if you plug that into an iPad, it'll supply power at the right speed for the iPad. And this the USB power delivery 3.1 just came out earlier this year. And so they have 140 watt, I think it was 140 watt, 180 watt, and 240 watt chargers that will be coming out for USB-C power delivery. And the 16-inch one weighs 4.7 or 4.8 pounds, a little under 10 inches, so 9.77 by 14 inches, so a little bit bigger than the 14-inch, but still pretty good form factor. It's also a little bit thicker. I think it's 0.66 inches. So just a little bit thicker. Okay. These Pro machines are highly configurable. So starting off the 14-inch, the default configuration is 8 CPU cores, 14 graphics cores, 16 gigabytes of main memory, and 512 gig SSD, and that's $19.99. The other default configuration they have is the $24.99, which is the middle one there. The M1 Pro with 10 CPU cores, 16 graphics cores, 16 gigabytes of memory, and a terabyte of SSD. What I found as I kind of went through and configured these is the 14-inch is usually about $200 cheaper than the 16-inch. So essentially you're paying $200 for the extra display. If you want to go to that middle column there, or the middle row, sorry, if you want to add from 16 graphics units to 24 or 24 to 32, which is updating the Pro to a max, that's going to push it up $200 or $400. And then, as you can see, if you really, really, really want all that space, you can pay $2,200 to get an 8 terabyte drive SSD in one of the high-end machines. I think these are kind of the reasonable configurations. This maxed out memory with 64 gig, the 1032, a terabyte, that's just under $3,900. If you make it 2 terabytes, it's like $44,100. But everything now from $19.99 to, you know, a crazy amount with the 8 terabyte hard drive for these Pro machines. And then when you look at the lower end, the M1 based MacBook Pro was, I think, $14.99 and $12.99. So you're in the same range. They have a very good from, you know, about $12.99, $9.99 up until how much do you want to pay for your computer. When they were comparing performance, they're comparing the M1 Max with all of its memory and all of its graphics units to the mid-range to high-end graphics in PC laptops. So they're actually now hitting pretty much the highest you can get with laptops, which is better than pretty much most desktop machines as well. There's definitely some high-end graphics cards that are above that, but they also cost a couple $1,000s each. So I think it will be interesting to see what Apple comes up with for a new desktop machine, if this is what they can put into a laptop. Because they've essentially, you know, they've converted it so that the SSD is almost as fast as memory was 5 years ago. And the memory that they have now is the unified memory is just incredibly fast. And their SSDs almost make it so that it's like it was going to main memory before. So when you're swapping the main memory to SSD, it's almost as fast as 5 years ago main memory.
Hey, Tony, I have a question.
Okay.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the SD card slot? Because I remember years ago, I don't know how long ago, and I don't remember the manufacturer, but somebody made what seemed like a flush mount SD card that you could put into the slot. And it was something where I guess you had to use a thumbnail or something to get out of it, but it was really nice and sleek because you could essentially expand your storage with an external SD card in that slot. Do you think that that would be something we could consider with these again? Because my thinking, because I'm in the market for one of these because mine's getting long in the tooth. My thinking is that I'd rather spend the money on the RAM and get, you know, 512. I guess that's the base storage, you know, enough to run all of, that's what I've been living off of for the last 6 years, enough to run all my software and keep my documents in the cloud for the most part. But if I want to carry a whole music library or a video library or something like that, I would plan on putting that SD card, putting it all on an SD card using flash memory in there. What do you think about that?
So the speeds of flash memory compared to the SSD that you have here, I'd have to do a full comparison, but I'm guessing they're at least an order of magnitude slower, if not more.
Oh, sure. But if you're just like using it to access files that are in cold storage.
Yeah, that would probably be okay for like a music library. And if you get a higher quality SD card, you can stream video from it, right? They're designed for video recording, so you can do that.
You have to watch the speeds on them, the read-write transfers, right?
Yeah, you have to buy the ones with the right speed for doing video, and they'll usually say, right, supports 4K video recording or something like that on the package. But I can definitely see that coming back, being an option. But also, when you start getting much larger than 256 megabytes on those, the prices really do start to go up. So it may actually be cheaper to upgrade a terabyte drive.
Like if you're going to spend the money on an external card, you might as well spend the money and put that into the innards, right?
Yeah.
That would help you decide if you're on the verge of doing that. I just like the idea of being able to buy it with 512 up front and then expand it later if I really do find out that I need that, because I don't do that kind of work as much as I used to, so I don't have those needs like I used to. And I've just been working with hanging external hard drives off, but like I've experienced, I haven't always had the best cables and they're not shielded, and I think that's what's been causing my AirPods to drop off. And I thought, well, maybe I could negate that if I just got an SD card.
Yeah, so you're talking a terabyte SD card. Well, the high quality ones are $300.
So that's already over that $200 difference, huh?
Yeah, well, it's $400 to go up to a terabyte and $200 to go up to, I think $200 to go up to 1 terabyte. Yeah, so it's and if you're getting one of the smaller ones, which is the micro SD, they're in the $150 to $200. I could definitely see that as something like an offline storage type of thing. But
yeah, like some way to back up or make a bootable, because they can be bootable, can't they? I mean, they used to be able to be. You could store another bootable drive on it.
I haven't heard anything if Apple will allow it to boot from an SD card. I would find that unusual with the other security features they have, but that may be possible.
Interesting. Well, it's exciting. It's nice to have options.
Yeah.
Tony?
It is nice to have options. Yeah.
With the new wider data paths on the Pro and Max chips, even greater than the M1, I'm wondering how the new wide data paths are going to really make things much faster versus how would you compare that to the data path from the the SD card? I got to think that's going to be much, much smaller, much slower.
Yeah, it is going to be much slower, but if you're doing something like, you're using it to play music, right?
Right.
There's more than enough speed to get it off of there. I wouldn't use that to like, oh, I want to do some video editing, right? I wouldn't do that to an SD card.
Yeah, I would use it as like cold storage.
SSD. Right.
Enough to travel with your project documents, but then, load them as you need them.
Yep.
Onto the internal drive. Can you give us any more details? What are your thoughts on the keyboards? This is no longer the butterfly, right? This is the scissors.
It's the scissors. I haven't been able to touch one, so I can't tell you.
None of the other models have any scissors.
They didn't talk a lot about that.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I wanted to see more about. I thought they'd give us a good graphic of the mechanism.
Yeah, and until, I am very picky. I use a mechanical keyboard.
That's why
for
I'm
my
asking.
primary
Because I'm picky
keyboard.
too.
And I, I was comfortable with my previous keyboards. I can type on them, but nowhere near as fast as I can type on my mechanical.
Yeah, it's all Bob's fault that I like mechanical keyboards now. Again.
Okay, are there other questions?
Tony, do you find the configuration here kind of extraordinary coming from a company that once upon a time had a grid of 4 products? For the consumer and the pro, and then the laptop and so on. I mean, it's just an amazing array of possibilities. And when the M1 first came out, I can remember Craig and, oh God, it wasn't Tim, but one of the Jaws or somebody talking about how they were going to be solutions oriented. In other words, graphic designers could use one machine, and game designers could use another machine, and video editors could use another machine, and so on. I mean, do you see some further definition coming to help allay some of the confusion that people are going to look at this and go, wow, what do I need to buy?
There's going to be a lot of choice paralysis, I think.
Yeah, so what I would say is for probably 90% of people, you probably do not need a Pro or a Max. I'm not sure I need a Pro or a Max.
Agreed.
For most of the stuff that I'm doing. There are a few things that I do that are very graphics intensive, but I think like the mid-range Pro is probably more than enough. The only reason I'm looking at getting towards the Max end is to say, yeah, that'll last for 7 or 8 years instead of 3 or 4.
The whole future proofing thing.
And hand-me-down value too. That's why I'm in the market to upgrade, because the Mac that I have now is wonderful, but if I don't upgrade soon, it's not going to have any hand-me-down value for my kids.
Yeah, my current machine is a 2016 13-inch Pro.
Same here.
My wife's current machine is a 2013 Air.
We're all going to be going shopping together.
Yeah, so
We'll trade
I'm
notes later,
probably
Tony.
going to get something. Not sure which ones we'll end up getting, but I'll probably get something in the middle. I have to go. I think personally, I'm going to need to try the keyboard out, and I'm going to need to see what the display difference is to decide if I want the 14 or the 16. The 14 will definitely be more portable at 3.5 pounds, but I previously had a 17-inch MacBook, so
those are behemoths.
I carried that around for years.
If we were on the coast, you could use it as a surfboard.
Seriously, wax it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. And
Thank you, Tony.
There'll be more to come in the future, I'm sure. But now we're going to turn it over to Roger, who's going to talk about Apple's new strategies regarding macOS backups. With their tightening of security, they keep making it harder and harder to make backups, or especially bootable backups. And Roger's going to try to simplify that a little bit, so maybe we can even understand most of it. But before I turn it over to Roger, I want to say hello to Jim Masak. On my screen, he's down at the bottom row, and he is the president of the Milwaukee group called DoubleClick Macintosh User Group. And there he is. He turned his camera on. Hi, Jim. Nice of him to join us, even though it is 2 hours later there. And he's been doing this since what, 85? Yeah, since like about 85. So it's nice to have him here. I went to the DoubleClick meeting last Sunday, and he did a wonderful demonstration regarding the private relay addresses that email addresses that Apple now offers, and I will be stealing heavily from his demonstration and give you a little show of that at some date in the future. But for now, thanks for joining us, Jim, and over to Roger.
Well, thank you, Bob. So we're going to talk about bootable clones and what are the future considerations. I'd like to thank Kevin for collaborating a little bit on this program. So what is a macOS clone and why do you want to have a clone backup? So a clone basically is the complete contents of your Mac's hard drive, including applications, all your settings, all your files, everything. And the reason we want a bootable clone is if your internal storage device fails, you can boot up from a clone and you're back in business. You don't have to do anything. So it takes literally seconds to get back on the track. So when we consider that the manufacturers of hard drives tell us that they expect their mechanical hard drives to last 3 to 5 years, so many people are living on borrowed time because they have computers that are more than 5 years old. We know that solid state drives will last longer. There's still a lot of question about how much longer. They do not last forever. They do have a limited life. So don't think if you got a solid state drive, your worries are over. So if you have a Mac that was made in 2015 or earlier, then you should really be paying attention to about getting clones made of your data, because you're using a drive that may be more than 5 years old and it could fail at any time. So you want to make sure it's backed up. So backing up is one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is testing your backups. Make sure that that backup will work when you need it. So you can't just let your clone and your time machine backups just sit there working away and never go back and try to restore something from them, because you don't want to be finding out when you need it that it's not there. So when we look at cloning software, we think of two different companies. The two most popular are Carbon Copy Cloner, which is from Bombic Software, and they started doing the cloning software in 2002. And there's a picture of Mike Bombic, the CEO, and I imagine the chief programmer for Carbon Copy Cloner. And another one that's mentioned is SuperDuper. And the name of the company that produces SuperDuper is ShirtPocket. And Dave Nanian is the president of that company. And they started 2 years later in 2004. Now, there are other solutions out there, but we're not going to go any further than these two. So when Apple started tightening up the security, going to the new Apple filing system, APFS, people were starting to worry that clones would no longer be able to be done. However, I'm going to concentrate on Carbon Copy Cloner from here on out. They brought out their latest version in September, about a month ago, which is Carbon Copy Cloner 6.0.3. And so far, Mike Bombic has been able to keep up with Apple, get resources from Apple that are needed for him to keep his cloning software working. So Kevin recommends that if you're going to do a clone of a modern Mac, that you need to use a solid state drive. You need to format that drive as APFS, which is the new Apple file system. And we're not going to go into all the nitty gritty because that is at bombic.com. When you get to their website, you can search for guided setup and they will walk you through. So the important factor that Kevin mentioned was that you want to make sure that you use the legacy bootable backup assistant. And again, you can get all the details on how to do that at bombic.com. So if you're using an older Mac operating system, you can certainly still use Carbon Copy Cloner. And again, just a reminder that those hard drives don't last forever. So the older system, the more likely you are to have a mechanical hard drive, which is going to fail. Not if it's going to fail, it's a question of when. Now, I understand that hopefully most of all the people here understand all this stuff. So my request to you would be to spread this to your friends, relatives, and neighbors who don't understand this. I mean, I run across people all the time who says, oh no, I don't need a backup. So my first question is, do you have any pictures on your computer? Well, yes. So most people need a backup. So be their tech expert and help them understand that they need not only to be backing up their data, but they need to be using current hardware and not depending on things that are more than 5 years old. So what happens is it's a cat and mouse game. Apple increases security and the cloning software companies have their challenges, but they are so far keeping up. We don't know what Apple's next move will be. So you just have to keep up. So we've often talked about the famous 3-2-1 backup strategy. Now, the original 3-2-1 backup strategy was 3 backups on 2 different kinds of media and 1 offsite. Now, in my mind, that has changed because in those days, they were expecting you to use optical discs, CDs, and DVDs for that second kind of media. In the meantime, we found out that the dies that make a optical disc work don't last forever. So they're not maybe a great choice for having an archive of your data. So I kind of merge the second kind of media with the off-site requirement for the 3-2-1 backup strategy, because when you go to that off-site company, which I recommend Backblaze for that, they're backing it up on their end. So you're getting the same effect as the 2 kinds of media. And of course, being off-site is very important because you never know what might happen. You could have an A10 land on your house and there goes your backup drive and your computer at the same time. So think of your backup strategy. Time Machine, of course, is built in. Make sure you're using that. And then I would recommend Carbon Copy Cloner and Backblaze, and then you'll be covered because you can not be too rich, too thin, or have too many backups. And there we are.
Thank you.
Any questions for Roger regarding the backups?
What did I miss about Super Duper? Is that recommended?
Well, I'm not a Super Duper user. I think, Kurt, don't you use Super Duper? Oh, okay. Anybody use Super Duper?
Sure.
Yes.
Sherm, that's right. Sherm does. So
I
when
just
I
put
was
some links into
researching
the
this
chat.
and looking at the knowledge base on the Super Duper website, it was not very up to date. So
I just
think,
posted the links in the chat.
okay, thanks, Melissa. So just from a cursory view, it looks like Super Duper is not quite as robust a company as is Bombic software with Carbon Copy Cloner.
They just updated their blog a couple days ago.
Do you know if they do bootable backups, Melissa?
They do.
Even on the new operating systems like Catalina, Big
I haven't
Sur and-
tried it in a while, but it says that they do.
Okay.
They just updated version 3.5 B4. They say from the blog there, it says it's fully Apple Silicon native, produces bootable backups for both Big Sur and Monterey, and it will be offered as an automatic update for existing version 3.5 beta users, or you can download it now.
So that is currently in beta.
The version, yeah, beta 4, I guess, is
B4.
out, and then it'll update automatically.
speaking of Monterey, as a group, we're not endorsing downloading and installing Monterey on your main machine anytime soon. For example, I have just upgraded my main machine to Big Sur like a week ago. So sounds like it's going to have a lot of good stuff, but I want to wait until it's nice and stable. And the software that I use also is really, really ready for it, because I want to make sure that I can keep doing what I'm doing. Melissa just asked, show of hands, who has upgraded to iOS 15? I did.
All right. I did it on my kids, but I sacrificed theirs first. I haven't done it on my daily driver just yet.
My new iPhone came with it.
Ah, there you go. I put it on my iPad. I saw a glitch or two, so I just wondered if it was all good to go. Bob, I would caution you about the upgrade to Big Sur. Oh, you already did, but anybody else who's thinking about it, I just had a client who did it, and their printer had previously been working wirelessly, and the Big Sur update, I think, broke that, and the solution was to add the USB cable back in. So just a heads up, test your printers. Either find somebody that you know who has a laptop that you could have them come over and connect it to your printer and try printing that out. I'm not available just yet, but somebody else who has it on a laptop could test out your printer first, and then if it's good to go, then go ahead and upgrade it.
Yes,
Melissa, by any
sometimes.
chance, was that an HP printer that died?
It was a laser jet. It didn't die. It just didn't recognize it anymore. And all we had to do was add the USB cable back in. They had been printing via Ethernet, but I'm pretty sure it was an HP laser jet. It's old. It was like a 1022.
Yeah, with a lot of the HP printers, what I've experienced is
No
after
AirPrint.
you
Yeah.
do a software update like that, you need to erase the network settings in the printer and reset them up, and then it'll work the way it did before.
The network settings, okay, because we did run the uninstaller, and restarted it and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, didn't go that far with it. They're also using an old Airport Express, so you need that too. But just adding the cable back in, because they weren't really using the wireless printing through the Airport Express anyway. So adding the USB back in is what fixed it. Just a heads up.
Yeah, oftentimes you can end up not, well, I can get this new upgraded operating system and it doesn't cost anything. But gee, now I have to buy a new printer or a new scanner. My scanner hasn't worked with its Epson software for some time, but I've purchased ViewScan software, and
Sounds familiar.
It works just fine.
So you hacked it to make it work? That's cool.
Yeah, ViewScan is making my printer, my scanner from, I don't know, more than 5 years ago, maybe as many as 10, and it works just fine. It's just like a different interface, but it's working well. And I went all out and paid the $100 for a ViewScan, which gives me lifetime updates for either my life or his life, whichever comes first.
Yeah, I've used ViewScan for years, and it's very good.
Yeah, I was gonna say they've been around for a long time.
Are there any other questions of a more general nature?
Who else besides Kurt, Bob, and I are Ted Lasso super fans? All right.
Yes, Ted Lasso.
All right, Roger.
Anybody else watching Foundation as it's coming out?
Yeah, it's in my list. Is it good?
Yeah,
it's good. It is certainly different than the books that were written in the late 40s and early 50s.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily a bad thing. They have all, back then every character was a white old guy, and now a lot of the characters are female and of color. And
That's a lot more
now that I'm
interesting,
getting
huh?
used to that, that's
Mhm.
pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's in our up next list.
Okay, okay. If
So
there's no
Bob,
other,
Bob, have you seen the Apple audio podcast that is about Foundation?
oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I do subscribe to it. I'm current on that as well.
Yeah,
Luckily,
that's sort of essential if you want to know what's going on.
yeah, it helps. It helps with the backstory, even though I've read the Foundation trilogy, all 9 of them, multiple times.
yeah.
But this
Especially
is
the day
certainly
they came
different.
out.
Was that you, Chris?
No, that was
That
me.
was
I said,
Kevin.
you read them the day they came out?
Kevin.
I'm not quite that old, Kevin. I'm old, but not quite that old. I didn't go to high school with Isaac Asimov,
Terrible.
but I'm
now-
looking to get a copy of his iRobot series
Mm.
because he had a very interesting premise there. It was a detective story.
Yeah.
And the detective went with his robot to do an investigation on a world where all of the people were isolated. They all stayed in their home with their robots to help them out.
Hmm.
And the only time they interacted was on screens where they
I
would
can't place why
chat on
that
screens,
seems
kind
so
of like Zoom.
familiar.
And it was it's so much of what we're going through now. I gotta revisit that.
Mm.
But
Now
I-
for something completely different, Schmigadoon was also really good. If you like theater and dance songs and stuff. Anybody watch that?
I gotta check it out.
Uh-huh.
I tried and got through about half of one of them.
Yeah, you have to be a certain kind of person, which I'm not, but my mother-in-law thoroughly enjoys it, so I like to put it on to make her smile.
Okay. Anybody else?
That's how I'm staying married right now.
In that case, I'm going to tell everybody that I want them to drive safely on their way home tonight. And be
Thanks,
sure
Bob.
that you please download, go to the, there it is. Go to the feedback form and fill it out. And all members should, I would love you to enter the treasure hunt raffle as well.
I'm gonna paste it
And
one more time in the chat.
I'm going to,
I read your mind.
and
Do that in the future now too.
there it is again. And I also put it into TMUG Talk, so it's probably in your inbox even as we speak. It really does help us give a feeling for what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and maybe craft a better meeting for you in the future. Okay. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, everybody.
Love seeing you.
Good seeing everybody.
Be safe. Come back again for the Thanksgiving edition and the Geek Gift Guide. If you have any suggestions for the Geek Gift Guide, send them to me. I'll look it up and give you some credit when I display your choices. Good night, all.
Night.
Night.